Hi, have you ever been frustrated in specifics, or frustrated with yourself, realizing that you want to move ahead in any number of areas? It could be with somebody that you really want to have as a friend, or a business partner, or in your business, or in so many situations, and you can't gain traction, you don't seem to move forward. Well, I can tell you as an expert, and I have certification and post-doctoral training in trauma, that one of the really negative side effects that we don't even realize about trauma, that we don't even realize we had, is that it blocks us from our resources. One of the things, and we can see it in the pandemic, that's so important, is that if we have resources, we have resilience. If we have resources, we can have new possibilities. If we have resources, we can be innovative and creative. One of my clients, who literally has been awarded many times for his creativity in innovation. He's considered one of the top creative thinkers in the world. When you go to his office, he has a huge library of all the writings of all the philosophers, of all the books written in every language that are from the greatest writers. He has history books that it's bigger than most libraries that you can go to on your own. And he'll say to new creative people that come to work for him, you're to spend 2 hours every day in here going through some of these books and reading them. In other words, what is he saying about, and his company is totally innovative and creative, award after award after award. And you can be that way too when you have resources. His library is resources. He said, I don't care what you studied at design school. I don't care what you know from university. I don't care how well you can draw or how well you know to position type on a page. I care about your creativity. I care about you doing something and I'm saying to you, you can do better than that, and you have resilience and you come back with something better than that. Now, I mention him because I learned from him the importance on that level of resilience, and resilience need resources. And the problem with trauma is that, and trauma can begin in the womb. If you were conceived and the marriage was really over, or in an alcoholic state, or not wanted, if your mother was very unhappy with her life in that moment, that biochemically goes into the fetus, and that starts a traumatic preparation. Life will begin with difficulty. And there are so many things that can traumatize us. Trauma occurs when our natural biological ability to manage a situation is overcome. And that's overcome a lot more than you can imagine. The intellect turns off, it's all encoded, and trauma can stop us from accessing the resources we have. Or a friend of mine who eventually became a fantastic psychologist, between the ages of 13 and 22, he was seriously into drugs. And he worked through the drugs, through going and working through the trauma that he wasn't even fully aware of. Yes, he remembered some traumatic situations, but it's the unremembered ones that you have to really be concerned about. And remembering a traumatic situation is only the tip of the iceberg. We were having lunch one day, and he was doing very well in his practice, and he had his PhD in psychology, and I really respected his work. And he said, I can't work with adolescents. And I said, oh, why not? And he looked at me and he began to cry. He said, from 12 into my early 20s, I have no real memory. I never had an adolescence. I was on drugs and in trauma, and I don't know anything about that period of my life. And when I get an adolescent, I can only move into protocol, and protocol doesn't heal trauma. And that's something I really want to impress on you, is that I don't care what training you've had. If you haven't been trained in trauma, do not work with it. You are in danger of secondary trauma for yourself and disillusioning a traumatized person. And that will cause suicidal thoughts, serious depression, and usually regressions that are not positive in their lives. Trauma is counterintuitive, and I advise everyone, I don't care what you learned at university, and trauma is not taught by people who specialize it and have a huge amount of experience with it in Brazil. And there are very few places you can go and study it in the United States, which require usually 2 or 3 years. So trauma is counterintuitive, and you really need to look at your own trauma, or you will prevent your client from going near that which traumatized you. And we have a lot in common with our traumatized clients. And you need to know how to use your resources to be really successful dealing with trauma.